Hi, I'm Connor Sweeney, and this is my bioenergy site assessment project. NC State is currently considering using some of its land close to campus for a biomass-based energy production project. This project's goal is to analyze the impact of biomass on NC State's energy consumption by measuring the energy offset. I will be evaluating these potential sites for their potential biomass production value. There are currently 4 sites that are available for assessment. They are the G.W. Hill Demonstration Forest, Hosley Forest, Shank Forest, and Lake Wheeler Field Laboratory. In picking the site for evaluation, I had to consider the sustainability of my actions. The G.W. Hill Demonstration Forest, located in Durham, has 2,450 acres and is used for summer camps. Even though this is the largest acreage of any site, I chose to stay away from it because it had other uses and the practicality of implementing a biomass farm would be complicated. Hosley Forest is 252 acres and is used for pine and natural bottomland hardwoods. Shank Forest has 300 acres and is also used for pine and natural bottomland hardwoods. However, Shank is also used for education and purposes, and converting the land to biomass production may upset some people. Unfortunately, this means that you would not be able to convert all 300 acres to biomass farmland. For this reason, I chose to evaluate Hosley Forest, which is appropriately sized and can be used for biomass production without any real conflicts. Unfortunately, 252 acres still might not be enough to make a significant energy offset for NC State, even with some of the most productive bioenergy feedstocks like miscanthus. Because of this, I chose to include Lake Wheeler Field Laboratory in my study. It is a 1,500-acre field laboratory that is used for teaching, researching, and extension requests. It consists of dairy cattle, beef cattle, swine, and poultry. The solid waste from these animals can be converted to biogas used for energy. Because we would only be using the waste from this laboratory, there should be no impact on the land. If anything, we would be cleaning up the area. With a combination of Hosley Forest and Lake Wheeler Field Laboratory, this project should provide a diverse bioenergy portfolio that could offset multiple areas of NC State's energy consumption. Ideally, you want feedstocks that are diverse enough to replace all sources of energy. This includes electricity, natural gas, and fuel oil. My initial thought was to have soybeans and miscanthus grown at Hosley Forest and use the dairy waste from the Lake Wheeler lab. The soybeans would be converted to biodiesel or biofuels. Miscanthus would be used for electricity and the solid waste would be converted to biogas. After some preliminary research, I quickly realized that the cost of transesterification was too high. This means that soybeans are now off the table and only miscanthus is left for Hosley Forest. Luckily, this is not a bad thing. Miscanthus is one of the best bioenergy producers and the farmers would only have to focus on harvesting one crop. Another perk of having only miscanthus is that it is incinerated for electricity, and Raleigh already has incinerators in use, so there is no need for installation costs. As if by sheer luck, State's greatest energy cost is its electricity cost, meaning miscanthus will have a greater energy offset than soybeans. Now that soybeans are no longer in the evaluation, another feedstock needs to be added. The most logical answer is to use another livestock solid waste. Not only would the solid waste use the same anaerobic digester, which saves money, but no other feedstock would limit the acreage that miscanthus would use at Hosley Forest. After some preliminary calculations, you quickly realize that dairy cattle and swine waste are the most energy dense if you use an anaerobic digester. So the project plan moving forward is to use all 252 acres of Hosley Forest for miscanthus and to convert the dairy and swine waste into biogas. It would be wise to sell the pine and hardwoods that are currently there to make a profit and help mitigate the cost of planting miscanthus. Using the BTU table provided, you can see that miscanthus can produce up to 254 million BTUs per acre annually. This is an optimistic estimate, but because this is an energy production project, it is important to highlight each feedstock's potential. Through the implementation in the future, we can achieve a more accurate measurement. In order to find the energy output of miscanthus, you simply multiply the acreage used by the annual production output. The annual energy output of miscanthus at the Hosley site would be up to 64 million BTUs. This makes up a little over 9% of the annual electrical energy consumption at NC State. This equates to $1,456,000 of offsetting energy costs per year. It is important to note that many incinerators already exist in Raleigh, so that the costs we have to analyze are transportation and establishment. Transportation can be ignored because there is little difference between transporting miscanthus and waste. According to Iowa State University, the establishment cost for miscanthus is $1,564 per acre, or in our case, $394,000 for the first year. For years after the initial establishment, the cost is simply $159 per acre, or $40,000 for the entire site. So every year, including the first, the university saves over $1 million in offsetting costs by converting Hosley Forest to miscanthus farmland. Now let's take a look at the Lake Wheeler Field Laboratory. There are minimal costs that involve the retrieval and relocation of the solid waste. The waste needs to be relocated to an anaerobic digester. The location of this digester should be located as close to the laboratory as possible so as to reduce transportation costs. It would be preferable to have the anaerobic digester located on site, which should not be a problem given the 1,500 acres of availability. According to the EPA, the cost of a $1,000 cow digester is $125,000. In order to compare this cost to the cost of the anaerobic digester that NC State will purchase, we need to look at annual productivity in pounds of waste. According to the BTU table, one mature cow produces roughly 1,000 pounds of solid waste annually. In the same table, 7 mature pigs produce 1,000 pounds of solid waste. So in terms of cows, the laboratory houses 190 dairy cows and 193 cows that represent the pig population. So in total, there are essentially 383 cows producing waste for the anaerobic digester. This is well under 1,000 cows, and the 125,000 should act as a conservative cost estimate for the laboratory. The question that remains is whether or not the laboratory would want to scale up the use, and would the size of the anaerobic digester be able to handle that capacity? The answer is yes. There are 190 dairy cows, 80 beef cows, 193 swine cows, and 18 poultry cows, for a total of 481 cows. This even leaves room for the laboratory to add an additional 500 cows and still have room to spare. According to the BTU table, one dairy cow's waste produces 26,000 BTUs per day, or over 9 million BTUs per year. The waste from 7 mature pigs produces 17,400 BTUs per day, or over 6 million BTUs per year. When multiplied by the number of dairy cows and pigs, the annual energy production results in 1,800 million BTUs per year and 1,200 million BTUs per year, respectively. Together, these total 3,000 million BTUs per year. Now, this may seem small when compared to the miscanthus, but given that we are using waste for power, it is actually an impressive number. As stated before, the anaerobic digester has the potential for triple the amount of solid waste input. So we can see that the 1,800 million BTUs per year produced from the dairy cattle will help offset the energy costs of natural gas. This is a little more than 0.1% of the current natural gas consumption for the year. With this, NC State would be able to help offset the cost of the $8 million it spends on natural gas by processing the waste created by dairy cows. And for the pigs, we can see that the 1,200 million BTUs per year produced will offset the energy cost of natural gas. This is a modest 0.077% of the current natural gas consumption for the year. This is not much, but combined with other bioenergy production, it can add up very quickly. In total, the university is saving $6,000 a year in offsetting costs, meaning that it would take 8 years to pay back the anaerobic digester. But again, if you were to use all the waste, then this payback could be cut in half. So in total, the university is offsetting its current energy savings cost by nearly $1.5 million. This is a large economic and sustainable impact for an energy production project. Overall, the project is very sustainably conscious and has positive environmental impact. When looking at Hosley Forest, we would be replacing the natural landscape with farmland for biogas. This is always difficult to assess the environmental process, but miscanthus is so energy dense that the amount of clean energy it provides surely outweighs the impact it creates. As for the laboratory, there is no negative sustainable impact. We would be taking the waste from farming and using it to produce energy. This is simply closing the loop on a natural cycle and repurposing a resource for another use. The only impact that is felt is the construction and installation of the anaerobic digester. The advantage of using miscanthus at Hosley Forest is that it can produce nearly 10% of NC State's current electrical use. A disadvantage is definitely that we would be destroying a natural forest. The advantage of using the solid waste at Lake Wheeler Field Laboratory is we are giving a purpose to a resource that otherwise would be useless. A disadvantage of this is that the payback period may be too long and the energy output of the system is relatively low. Overall, I think you should heavily consider these recommendations. NC State is a sustainably conscious university, and we should show that by implementing these projects.